Hi, everyone, and welcome to So What's Your Process? The podcast where we talk with creatives from all fields about what they do and how they do it. I'm Allie Dalsimer.
I'm Kyle Dalsimer.
And who do we have today, Kyle?
Well, we've got a really exciting guest today. Our guest is an actress and theater influencer. She's built a social media platform creating funny and informative videos about navigating the world of theater, reaching millions of viewers across platforms. She's also the content coordinator for Table 7 Strategy, where she's worked on marketing for Broadway shows like Boop, the Betty Boop musical, and Rob Lake Magic with special guest The Muppet, and Tartuffe with Broadway legend Andre Shields. Both of those last two are on Broadway right now. Please welcome to the show, my friend and yours. It's Deanna Elise Beaucher.
Hi, Deanna.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're so glad you can be here. Wow. So just that last little flex there, can we just dive into that? What's it like working with such big names and coordinating with them and talking? What's that like? And how does that process work?
Yeah, so if you asked me a year ago, I would have never thought my life was going to be like this. I was a school teacher, last year. And in June, my friend Kevin, that I did Little Mermaid with at Walnut Street Theater, works at Table 7 and was giving me little jobs here and there, since I am a content creator, to interview directors and other creatives for Table 7. And then they offered me a part-time position to be the content creator for all these other shows. And then we got the Rob Lake with special guest The Muppets show, and I was floored because I grew up watching The Muppets, and so did my parents. And then we got Andre Shields in Tartuffe, and like Kyle said, he is a Broadway legend. And when I got to meet him, I was stunned. I was stunned, too stunned to speak, actually. So it's a really cool process, and I'm so happy that content creation and Broadway got to be merged together for me. And now I get to, live my life doing both of the things that I love.
That's really cool. We're kind of geeking out a little bit because Andre Shields is just, amazing. And, one of the, we saw him in the,
in Hadestown, in the original Broadway cast.
I have not seen Hadestown, and I need to.
So good. So good. He was amazing in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm wondering, because you're bridging that gap between acting and marketing in a really unique niche, or at least one that I hadn't really been familiar with before. So, how does that work? When you meet with them or talk with them, or do you look at a show, and how do you decide, how do you capture the flavor of a show, or you create content? How do you decide what to put in there, what to leave out, what to prioritize, how to make it, you wouldn't do the same for the Muppets as you would for Tartuffe, right? So how does that work?
Yeah, so there's a whole team behind it. So it's not just me, but we definitely sit down with the director to create the tone of what they are looking for. Tartuffe is more serious than, the Muppets and Rob Lake. Rob Lake, we really wanted to dive deep into his childhood and how he came about, starting magic, because, nostalgia really sits well with people, and it really sells when people are hooked on a nostalgic feeling, which the Muppets are. And with Tartuffe, Andre Shields, he has that seriousness to him, but he also has a comedic side. So we wanted to show that in little snippets too. But when I present certain ideas for content, I'm also looking at what is blowing up on the internet. I am unfortunately chronically online. So all the time I am saving videos and seeing how these different trends can work for each show, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that that you can tell in your content for shows, but also your personal content that you make, where you're very tuned in. I know one of your biggest videos that you have is during the when you're getting mugged but your headphones are in trend, and you did that with the theater edition, and you had Broadway music playing for that. So I'm curious about is it just about being up to date on the trends? What do you do when you're going about creating content? How does that come about for you?
Yeah, so I would say if I'm scrolling online, if I see a sound that resonates with me, like that's the most important thing. If it resonates with me, I want to do the trend or I want to create the sound in my own way. But if a trend is going around that I don't resonate with whatsoever, I'm not going to force myself to make it, because one of the biggest things that I pride myself on is being authentically me and not trying to be someone else just to like get more followers or get more traction online. Like no matter what, I always want to be myself. So like the mugging video, I had seen someone else's video and they did, I'm pretty sure it was in New York, but they did like a pop version. So I told my partner Israel, I was like, I really want to make this video. Let's do it like for musical theater. And I was like, Hairspray is the best song to use. Why would you not use it? And he was so down to do the video. And it literally took us like 30 minutes. And then I edited it really quick. And I was like, I know this is going to do really well. Just watch. And it did. I did not think it was going to get like 1 million views, but it exceeded my expectations so much. And that's just my process of how I create content, really. Is normally I just do it like off my brain, if that makes sense. Like I don't really like plan my content too much, just because if I plan it, then I don't feel like it's authentically me.
Yeah, I love that. And I think authenticity is absolutely key to success in frankly everything. Can I just ask a question, because I don't know these things?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by the sound? Like, what do you mean by the sound?
Oh,
do you mean like an actual physical sound, or is that representative of something?
Yeah, so let me think of like an example. So sometimes like from a TV show, there's going to be like a sound bite of someone saying something like, I'm trying to think of one that I recently did.
So like a sound bite versus like a sound.
Yeah, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like it's not just like music. It's like a sound bite of like someone saying something quirky or funny. And then I just get more like the text will say something like, oh, me in an audition room, like them just saying, thank you.
Right. So it's like some nugget or something that speaks to you.
Exactly,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay.
Meanwhile,
get my terminology down.
Yeah, and then like a trend is like my own sound, just like me, like kind of like acting something and like making it my own, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let's talk about that with the content that you make, because you know, I have I work with younger people who are in theater or sort of not in theater but on social media, and I've had people reach out to or realize that we know each other and be like, oh my God, I love her content. Oh, it's so helpful. I feel like I learned so much about the industry. And I'm curious, was that your goal when you started making content? What led you to making content? And did you know that you were going to, you know, have a lot of funny content and a lot of relatable content, but also be a really great resource for so many young people in this industry?
Yeah, I would say when I started, it was probably when I graduated from AMDA in 2021, and I was still navigating the, you know, industry, especially post-COVID, and I really knew nothing coming into auditioning for colleges or, you know, again, like post life after AMDA or post-COVID. So I really wanted to educate those on like resumes and EPAs and ECCs. And even like you helped me out when we met each other, like informing me of like what all that kind of stuff was in the union. And once that started like to get bigger for me and I started having a younger audience, I realized like, okay, I have a really important duty now to keep informing them of like how auditions are working and how they're flowing and, you know, always changing. And it means a lot to me that I have a younger audience to educate them, but that's my main, what's the word? That's my
raison d'etre.
Yeah. Like that's my main, like who I want to have my content for. And also I wanted to create content because if I can't get into an audition, I want casting directors to see my social media profile and know that I am working really hard and trying to get into the room and always working and, you know, taking voice lessons, dance classes, acting lessons, and just trying to grow my education on theater as we speak, even though I might not be in the room for them. I want them to always be seeing me, whether it's on.
That's interesting, because I've heard through sources that you know, there are certain roles, I don't know if it's ubiquitous, but there are certain roles where having an online presence and a following and whatever can be an advantage for helping you get seen for a role. I mean, it's not going to land you the role necessarily unless you're, a huge movie star and suddenly you want to do Broadway and then they're like, yes, please.
Yeah.
But that it can help you get in the room for those auditions. And I'm wondering, have you, you just said that that's something that you want. Is that something you've actually experienced? And if so, do you think that it influences how they view you when they're watching you?
Yes, I would say for commercials, I have been asked to come in because of my follower count. Like Kyle, I don't know, do you have casting networks?
Yeah.
Okay, so now they're making you connect your Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube to see how many followers you have.
Oh,
and that's a brand new thing. And I was like, oh, so it really does matter in some cases. But for theater, I haven't experienced that. But I know like for Little Shop, they're always casting, these big, huge names. So I'm like, maybe further down the line, if I, get those credits and get more followers, like maybe that could be me one day. And I think my social media page only helps me in the way, like I am the same person going into an audition room that I am online. And I've been told that by so many people, and that's how I want to come off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's that authenticity.
Yeah.
So,
and that's very true.
yeah. And that's going to serve you well. I do have a question though. So, you went to theater school, you went to AMDA, you graduated, it was, pandemic, and it was really hard for everybody, and certainly for theater, because of course people weren't going into closed arenas to sit cheek by jowl with everybody at that time. And now you've transitioned into this social media content creation after doing a stint as a school teacher. And so I'm wondering, in the short process, in just these last 4 years, which really isn't that long a time, what has your experience through your various roles taught you about yourself that you hadn't realized before? And how did that come about?
Yeah, so when I graduated school, I had a conversation with my dad, and he said, try everything before you're 30 so you know what you like and you know what you want to do. That way you have no regrets. Once you have a mortgage and you have more bills to pay and you might have kids, you know what I mean? So I decided to try the school teaching thing, and I thought I would love it. And I hated it. I love kids, but I think I'm more of like a one-on-one smaller group than like 25 kids. I nannied, and now I have the marketing job. I worked in retail and the food industry for a long time. And I think all of these jobs taught me like I am capable of anything, and I'm, a chameleon as an actress, in all honesty. Like I know that I can interview at any place and I can be personable, and I have the people skills, and yeah, really that I'm a chameleon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and actually you are still an educator. Just want to point that out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And that chameleon thing, I think also really resonates in your acting. You've played leading roles in shows like Rock of Ages. You've swung shows like Little Mermaid. I'm curious if you find some overlap in your creative process when you're creating a character and when you're creating content. Is there any overlap for you as a creative there?
I would say, now that I'm thinking about it, the process is kind of the same, especially for like the videos that I'm acting in. I know for characters like Sherry in Rock of Ages, like that character at the time was so different than me. I was like, what do you mean I have to play a stripper? I walked in really not knowing what Rock of Ages was about, and I just was like, I'm just gonna audition for it. And then I was watching the bootleg and I was like, huh? What?
And I go, what did I get myself into?
And my boyfriend was like, what? But like, I think social media has helped me like realize about myself that I love playing comedic roles like Lauren and Kinky Boots and Sherry, and like finding myself in those characters. Like the social media, I'm always, you know, being myself and showing my comedic side, because sometimes I walk in rooms and they're like, oh, I don't know if this girl's funny. You know what I mean? That's not the first thing that they think of when they see me, but I want them to know that. So I think social media has helped me in that way, bring out the comedic side of my acting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. That leads me to sort of a little more of a fun question. If you could pick one role to play as a dream role, and also one dream show to be to market, what would those be?
Ooh, okay, a dream show to market. I mean, it has to be Hairspray for me. I mean, you could do so much with Hairspray.
Yeah.
A dream show to be in, there's so many. Oh no. I mean, like the first thing that comes to my mind is like, you know, as a girl, like I loved princesses and I always wanted to play a princess. So like Ariel and the Little Mermaid has always been my dream role. That or Sandy and Grease has always been my dream role.
Yeah. Yeah, those are good ones. Those are really, really good ones.
Those are good ones. Do you feel like you have a connection, like a personal connection with, well, maybe any of the roles that you've played or any of the roles that you aspire to play, because maybe you feel like they are you in some way?
Yeah, I would say definitely like I resonate with Ariel, and I've been in for her so many times because, you know, she's longing to go to the human world. And for so long, like I was longing to go to New York and chase my dreams and, you know, have this acting career. And this is off topic, but now I'm in New Jersey and I've lived that life. And I've noticed about myself that, you know, I like being in New Jersey. I like having, you know, my own house. I like seeing grass. I like having a car. But when I'm in for Ariel, I still can hone in on that feeling when I first, you know, went to Times Square and I was living in New York City and being like, my dreams are going to come true and I'm going to be on Broadway.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. That, just talking about being in for a role multiple times, it reminds me of a conversation we've had a couple times
Yeah.
about different shows where there's, you know, a bunch of different productions across the country at different regional theaters, different sometimes cruises or tours or Broadway or whatever. And you just keep on going in for those same roles. I know we've talked about Jersey Boys that you've been in for that show about 150 times.
The whole book by now, literally.
So what is that like, having a show or even a specific role that you get called in for over and over, and having to go in and often doing the same material, you know, but with a different creative team, different casting?
Yeah. I don't know if you feel this way, but like when I'm called in multiple times for a certain role, whether it's Francine in Jersey Boys or Ariel in The Little Mermaid, like I almost feel like, okay, is the material that I'm doing not working? You know what I mean? Or is it like, do you ever feel that way? Or
Yeah, where it's like you're going and you're like, I'm getting called in, I'm getting, you know, often getting brought to the final rounds of it, and then it's just
Why can't you
it's
get
not
over that
happening.
last hurdle?
I've had that for a couple shows where I'm like,
Including Jersey Boys.
yeah.
yeah. Well, for me, it happens with Beautiful all the time.
Oh,
For
Yeah.
Barry and Beautiful, and I'm like, what else do I need to do? How do I?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's how I feel too. But also, like, I go in and I know, like, I'm bringing myself to the character. There's not much more I can give. And, like, if I'm not what they're looking for, I'm not what they're looking for. And that's completely okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
But still trying to find, like, you know, working on the material, like, still trying to find the moments that maybe I missed prior or trying something different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and finding something new in it to bring.
Yeah.
That actually leads me to another thought. I don't know if we can talk in specifics about it, but you do have a couple exciting film projects coming up, some on-camera stuff going on that I don't think is public yet. What is that transition like from acting on stage to doing on-camera work?
Yes. So I started my on-camera journey, I would say, in June of last year when I booked a commercial, like post-college. Like my dad is a graphic designer for his company's Neo Pangeo, but he works for Paramount Plus and all these different companies like Disney and Nickelodeon. So when I was growing up, he needed me in a Snapple commercial, and I said yes, and he was like, I need you to ride a bike for this Snapple commercial. I said sure. I don't know how to ride my bike yet, but I'll try. So I always knew that I liked on camera film, and I did a TV show last year called Ambroke, which is kind of like a Nancy Drew, and it's very different. It's very different for me switching. But I almost kind of like the fact that I can do different takes in different ways, and it's not just like all one thing like a show is, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You get to try again or try something new and have different takes for the folks in the editing room to decide over.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but I'd like to explore that a little bit, because that's interesting. So, I mean, folks who are within the industry, you guys know all this stuff, but those of us who aren't in the industry, we really don't. And so film, television, theater, live theater, it's obviously acting, it's all acting, but I mean, you've clearly alluded to it being very different in the multiple takes and stuff like that. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about how the process for each, in terms of not only the actual doing of it, but your preparation of it is different. And also, are there any acting habits or ways that you perform that you have to, that you came up through theater school? Did you have to unlearn them to do the film and television stuff?
Yeah, I would say the habits that I had were overacting. I don't know if I can say what it was for, but I'm just gonna glaze over it. But there is a huge show coming out on Apple TV, and I was in for it, and I sent my videos over to my manager, and he was like, Deanna, you're overacting too much, girl. Like, calm it down a little bit. This is TV and film. Like, the character is a very well-known pop star, and I think seeing her and, growing up watching her TV shows on Nickelodeon, like, I was like, okay, she's overacting. She's also a theater person. So I thought I had to act that way, but realizing, if I take it back, that's also great. And I ended up getting a callback for it and making it to final callbacks. I don't think I got it, but that is definitely a habit that I have in TV and film, just like knowing the difference between overacting and just connecting with the camera and being, a human in a way. And then I would say my preparation is kind of the same now that I'm kind of looking at it as a casting director point of view for TV and film, like just really making sure that I'm not overacting, if that makes sense.
So you memorize scripts or whatever all in the same way. You don't do it differently.
I would say I definitely make different choices and see what lands. What else do I do?
Well, so what does that mean exactly?
Like, I would say, like, let's say I get a script and I place out my beats of where I think, or scratch that, I separate it into chapters. I was taught this by one of my acting professors, where, when you think a scene has changed, that's a new chapter, and you title it that kind of chapter. So, like, the first one could be like, I'm trying to think of a scene there. Where I could think of something like Beautiful, when they're playing cards, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, or when Carol sees Jerry, for the first time with, his mistress, like, she's knocking on the door, and that could be like the chapter title could be Excited to See, my husband. Then she realizes it's the mistress, and she's like, that's a new beat. And that can be titled, Who the Heck Are You? So it's just like that kind of stuff, and reading the lines, whether I want it to be comedic or whether I want my inflection up on a certain word or down on a certain word, and what lands to the audience or to the camera or to casting.
Yeah, absolutely.
If any of that made sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot. It's a very technical process. You're really breaking down your script in bite-sized chunks, so that you can segue from one to another
Yeah.
in a seamless way. Is
Yeah.
what I'm hearing.
Another scene that came to my mind as you were saying that is Seymour and Audrey when he's like, will you go on a date with me? She's like, sure. And it's the pacing of it too, because, you know, you want it to be really like fast in that moment for comedic time. And when she's like, oh no, I think I have a date, you know, with Oren, that's the funny part, because she's like, oh no, I can't. But it's like really fast pace.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I wanna
Timing is everything.
Yeah, timing is
comedy.
everything for
Yeah.
sure. I wanna touch on something that you hit just a little bit earlier when you were talking about being, you know, taping for a role and then getting a call back and then going all the way to finals for it. And then you said, and I don't think that I got it, which I think is for people outside of the industry might be like, what? But for us, that's you know, the most common
Normal.
thing where, you know, people, you know, I think that people say in acting or in general, the worst that people can say is no. And I think that for us, we know that the worst that people can say is we just never hear from them ever again.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about that and what that's like navigating something where you're in for a role for a while and going through it and then it just radio silence?
Yeah, I would say when I first joined the union, I took it very personal. And I was like, okay, all these no's are really, you know, making me upset, and I'm taking it really hard. But as time has gone on, I've realized, like, when I go in for an audition or I make it to final callbacks, I try to look for the good in it. Like when I was in for Little Shop, I was in with Broadway people, and I was like, okay, I don't even have a Broadway credit and I'm in with Broadway people. You know what I mean? So that was the win for me. Like they think I'm just as good as Broadway actors, so I need to think of myself that highly as well. And also knowing that what I bring to the table is just as good and not really getting into my head, even though the no's can really suck sometimes. And I can get my hopes up for things, but other factors come into play, whether the theater can afford a certain amount of equity contracts. And that has happened to me more times than I can count on my hands.
Me too.
They just cannot afford another equity person in whether it's their ensemble or, you know, I remember that for one of my past contracts, my contract depended on if someone else accepted theirs. So if they
Wow.
didn't accept theirs, it was going to
Wow.
go to an equity actor, and it was a non-union actor. But if they did, then the last equity contract was going to go towards me. So I know that sometimes it's so out of my control, and that's just how it is.
Yeah. And I think you touch on something that, you know, another thing that we in the industry definitely relate to, but might not be for people outside, which is equity in the union and things like that. So can you talk a little bit about, you know, deciding to join the union, what that meant for you as a career thing,
Yeah.
and the impact that it has on your career?
Yeah. So for the audience, I actually met Kyle at an ECC for Sweeney Todd, and I was asking him about the union and, you know, his experience thus far. And literally the next day I went and applied to join for the union because I had my points. I had worked at equity houses before, and I was like, you know what? I want to get paid a decent amount for being in a show. I want to have, you know, the protection of the union. And if I travel 2 hours from New Jersey, I want to make sure that I am seen for these auditions. And I was EMC at the time, and I really wanted to build my connection with casting directors in the 2 years before EMC was getting dwindled away in 2026. And so far, that has been the biggest win of all, is building my connection with casting directors, because I walk in and they remember me, they know me, they call me in for certain projects that I'm good for. And I had my first equity production that I was an equity member in last December. And I would say I have so many of my friends, asking me like, should I join? Should I join? But really it's a feeling that you have if you're ready. I knew that when I was joining, like I was going to be competing against the people that I idolized. And I knew that it was going to be a long time before I worked, or it was going to be, 6 months in between jobs or whatnot. But I knew that that's where I wanted to be in my life. And I think it was the best decision that I made at the time.
Yeah, that's, there's several things in there that for those who, lots of people want to be an actor, right? I mean, that's sort of a dream that a lot of kids have. I'm going to go and I'm going to be a movie star, or I'm going to be a Broadway star and whatever. And, the truth is that it's just a really, really competitive field. And one of the things you've just said, I think people might or might not have picked up on and may or may not know. And that is, you said, if I'm going to travel 2 hours to an audition, I want to make sure I'm seen. And so the reality for a lot of people who are just starting out, who are out of school or who are just fresh to New York or whatever, I don't know if it's the same in LA, they're so excited. They spend time learning their scripts or their lines, or they embody characters, or they memorize songs, and they spend a lot of time and effort on doing this, travel on their own nickel to go to these places, and when you're young, you don't have any money unless you're blessed with wealthy parents, and then you might not even get seen. So you could literally sit around for 8 or 10 hours and then not even get seen, and that's just got to be heartbreaking. But I'm wondering, can you just talk a little bit about what it is? You have to think back a few years to be new on the scene, fresh in New York. You're not equity. You're just out of school. You're looking for auditions. You're trying to figure it out. Can you talk a little bit about what that life is like, what the process of being a brand new to town wannabe actor is?
Yeah. So right out of college, again, I knew nothing about ECCs or EPAs
And so just, ECC, EPA, for folks who don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's an equity chorus call or an equity principal audition.
Gotcha.
And fortunately, I booked my first job out of college at an equity house at the Walnut Street Theater, where I did Little Mermaid. So I got my EMC card right out of college, which I'm so thankful for. And if I went to a 4-year school, that wouldn't have happened for me. So that's why I think, whoever's up there works in mysterious ways. So I got my EMC card, and if you're EMC at an EPA, you get priority over non-union folks. So right out of school, I was just, looking up and on TikTok of anything I can find out about EPAs and ECCs, how they work, what time people get there. And it was absurd, like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. So fortunately, one of my best friends lives in Midtown, like right next to the equity building. So I would sleep over her house, and I would get in line at 4 a.m. And it's scary out in New York at 4 a.m. Like it is in Times Square, it is scary. So I would line up, knowing that I might not get seen, knowing the disappointment of that, but also knowing like, if I don't try, like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Right.
So I went in, and, I would sit for hours and hours and hours. When they finally called my name, waiting there, it was so worth it. Even if they weren't looking, knowing that, I just showed up for them, and more importantly for myself. So once I knew I wasn't getting seen for probably about like 2 months of auditions, I wasn't getting seen. And it was like around that January area, where audition season is at its peak. I was getting very frustrated, knowing that like I am perfect for these shows, that I know that I can, work hard and be in them. And, at least I want to show the casting what I'm capable of, and not even being seen. I was like, I'm going to join.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially knowing that EMC was going away in 2 years, or I think at that time it was 3 years, but knowing that, this career is a marathon, it's not a sprint, and knowing that I really wanted to build my connections with casting directors within those 3 years before
Yeah.
everyone joins at the EMC, if they choose so.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what is this about non-equities going away? Or
So
what is this?
EMC, which is the
Yes.
the equity
Equity
membership
Oh,
Candidate,
equity membership.
yeah.
candidate.
Oh,
So
equity membership.
if you,
candidate.
I was never an EMC. I got my card. I got my card a little bit right before I would have gotten EMC. I had a crazy whatever.
Wait, so-
if you want to
wait.
talk about EMC,
So-
for-
Yeah.
Equity membership candidate. So you're not actually an equity member. You're a
Yeah.
candidate to be an equity member. Is that right?
Yeah, so it's crazy. So this whole world is crazy. So when I was in Little Mermaid, they were like, they gave me a piece of paper to fill out for equity, basically saying, how do I say it? It's like EMC is basically like you need, at the time when I was doing it, you need 25 working weeks. So like 25 points to then join equity. So Little Mermaid, I believe it was like a 12-week contract because it was during the holidays. And then I did Xanadu, which was like 6 weeks, I think. So at that point, I'm at 18. And then I did Rock of Ages and I made, my points. And I was like, okay, I think it's time. So, and I was talking to one of my mentors and someone that I work for, Carrie Butler, who's a famous Broadway actor. I said to her, I'm thinking of joining. And she was like, look, Deanna, like if you have your 25 weeks, like you've shown and proven that you are capable of being in the union. That's why they have the program. And I was like, you know what? You're right. So that's when I joined.
yeah, and it's 25 weeks, not just working, but working at equity theaters
equity
that
theaters.
hire equity. So you're working
Correct.
in a place where you're collaborating with union actors.
Mm-hmm.
So it very much is telling, especially that you were playing, for some of those shows, you were playing principal roles at those places.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, no, you're ready to do it.
Yeah, so I definitely felt ready. And I knew when I joined that it was going to be hard. I knew that it was going to be hard. I knew that I wasn't going to work. I knew that it was going to take a while for me to work, and it still feels that way, but I'm only, what year is it? 2025. I'm only 2 years in, you know what I mean? And that's literally nothing. So there's still time. And I always try to tell myself, like, I'm about to be 25 in February. Like, I'm still young. I'm not in my mom era to play, people in Dear Evan Hansen yet. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not in that era, and I'm not in, my grandmother era either. Like, people need those people on Broadway too. And it's like, if you don't make it in your 20s, like, you still have time. And I try to preach that so much to my friends and everybody.
So I mean, clearly you have a path with acting, and yet we started this show talking about your your influencing and marketing. And do you see yourself continuing in both of those roles, or is there one that appeals to you more? And if you're going to do both, and if things like, if you get into a show that's very demanding or whatever, I mean, how do you balance all of that and the commitments that you need to make without burning out?
Yeah, I would say my number one dream is to be an actress on Broadway. Now I'm having a love for TV and film. No matter what, I want to be an actress. I've even, thought of the idea of voiceover too. And just exploring my options and knowing that theater is not the only route that you have to take. And I think content creation and marketing will always be there for me. I feel like if I'm working in theaters or on TV and film sets the rest of my life, that I can use that skill to my advantage. And when I'm even applying for a job, I put in my email, like, I, work in a marketing team. If you want to hire me, as maybe the social media coordinator of the cast, I can be, and I can, get like an extra bump for that or something, just like a dance captain would, because social media is taking over the world. Like, that's how people find out about theaters. That's how people find out about your shows. If it comes up on their For You pages, if, you have a video that blows up. So I always try to market myself in that way. And I think I will forever.
Love that. I really love that. So for forever, that, so let's say you continue on and you're moving on, how will you know when you have achieved whatever you consider success for yourself? And alternately, like, where do you actually see yourself 10 years from now when you are maybe transitioning into more of those mom roles?
Yeah, I would say I've achieved success honestly just knowing that I'm happy and I'm doing what I love, and I love going to work wherever that is every single day with a smile on my face and knowing that I love doing what I love doing. And I think from 10 years from now, I did make a video probably a year ago that was like plan A and plan B, and it was like my plan A was to be on Broadway, you know, all that kind of good stuff, and my plan B is like have a family, have a dog, you know, live in New Jersey, and that still is one of my dreams. I've always wanted my own family. So I think 10 years from now, like, and I've seen Broadway actresses like Carrie have a family and still be able to pursue her dreams and what she loves. So I think I see myself definitely being a mom in 10 years and still chasing my dream of Broadway and TV and film and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that you touch on something really cool there, and I think it really is emblematic of what your process is, and that's doing what you love and being authentic, and what we talked about with the ideas of not doing a trend just because it's popular if it doesn't sit right with you. Everything about what you do is about authenticity and being and being your most authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
And teaching
and using that to help other
and
people.
sharing.
Yeah.
And I love that aspect of it.
Yeah, and I also like having a career now that like combines the two for me because since I am working on these Broadway and off-Broadway shows, I'm meeting producers and I'm meeting all these different actors that are building my connection. So I feel like I'm not walking into the audition room anymore feeling desperate for a job. Like I love my job, so it's like I'm still in the realm of everything. I don't like need to be in a show so badly that like I don't know what I'll do with myself if I'm not in a show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that helps. Honestly, I know for me, the times where I've been most desperate and like I need a job, the chorus line sound like that. I really need this job. It's like those are the times when I'm not booking, and the times when things really do start coming is when you're just enjoying being along for the ride and telling stories and being happy with where things are going.
Yeah, and I will say like social media does have its downsides. Like I definitely look at other people's content or them singing and being like, "Oh my God, I don't know what my mix belt is. Like, am I supposed to know what my mix belt is? Like, I'm just not like that kind of singer, and that's okay. Like I am needed where I am needed. You know what I mean? So that's the only like downside I would say of like constantly seeing other people posting and seeing the reaction they're getting from like their talents and being like, okay, am I not good enough? But also just pushing out that noise and knowing that you are good enough and you're more than good enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's a really interesting point. I mean, obviously there have been a ton of studies that show that, being on social media so much is really damaging to self-esteem and confidence in these things. And I have to say, I really admire your ability to recognize that's what's happening so that you can prevent it from having an impact. It just leads me to one final question that I have, and that is, obviously you study people so that you can become better at your craft, and I think that's, from what I've heard today, true for wherever you are doing what you do. Is there a particular influencer that you really learned a lot from, that you watched, that you tried to emulate, keeping in mind that I'm asking in terms of just sort of educational, since your journey really is your journey, and you're staying true to it, not copying anyone. But it's just like studying acting techniques when you're in school. So
I would say there's a lot of different ones that I admire. And it's crazy because now they're my friends. Like I think I really take from everyone's, and it's funny because, you know, if I'm at an audition and I see someone that I know that's also like a theater influencer, they're like, "Oh, do you want to be in my TikTok today?" And I kid you not, we were making the same TikTok.
That's great.
And I was like, "Oh, okay, we'll shoot mine afterwards." But I think it's like a mix of different peoples and finding what works for me, like taking like the comedic of someone else's and, you know, the educational of someone else's, or even like the advice driven stuff, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right back to I mean, I think that's the core of your process
Yeah.
is authenticity.
Mhm.
Just being true to yourself, what you love, who you are.
Yeah. And also I am very, like, I was just on vacation for a week and I was like, I'm not making a single video. Like
Yeah.
I really
Taking a break.
I cherish taking the break, and, you know, because I post every single day. And it's hard sometimes. I'm like, I have no creative outlet right now. Like, what do I post? But also knowing that like those breaks are very much needed, and not being on your phone is very much needed. Like when I woke up, you know, for the past 6 months, the first thing I would check my phone. And I was having a conversation with my voice teacher, and I was like, no, when I wake up, I'm going to go on a walk. I'm going to, you know, get away from my phone, because once I put my eyes on the phone, my stress from work, from anything, is just going to start pouring out. And that's not the way to start your morning or your day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's super spot on. And I think that's something that I know I could be better at and should take your advice on. And I think a lot of people will feel that
I just started, so don't think I've been doing it for a long time.
There we go. Well, I think this has been an amazing episode. I think we've all learned a lot, and it's been really great to chat. I want to just pass the mic over to you. Anything you want to promote, whether it's in your marketing, your social media, your acting, anything you want to shows, anything you want to promote, floor's yours.
Yeah, so you guys can all follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Deanna Elise Beaucher. Some projects that I have coming up are Rob Lake X the Muppets at the Broadhurst Theater, Tartuffe featuring Andre DeShields coming off Broadway at the House of the Redeemer, and then Art of Leaving coming to the Signature Theater. All I'm working on those is content and social media, and I'm really excited for those shows. And I'm also going to be in a Christmas cabaret in Philadelphia on December 19th, if anyone wants to come.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Deanna, for coming on the show. I'm really glad that we had you on. It's been a blast.
Yeah, really, really informative, especially for those of us who don't know the ins and outs of the behind the scenes. So thank you for sharing all that process information with us.
Thank you both for having me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right, have a good one.
We'll see ya.
All right, bye.
Bye.
So, Allie, what did you think?
Yeah, that was super interesting. Like, as someone who hasn't really been there, I mean, I know some of the things, you know, the rest of the world, it's no news is good news. And as I've experienced tangentially through you, you go in for an audition and you've practiced, you rehearsed, you've memorized, you've done all this stuff, and you have your monologues and your songs and blah, 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 blah. And you go down there and you wait for hours, and then you have 3 minutes in the room, right? All these lucky. Hours, and you have like, okay, a minute or two in the room, whatever. And then it's crickets. And then you find out you didn't get the role when they post the cast announcement, and you're not part of it.
Yeah.
And that's just like heartbreaking. And what I really loved about Deanna is that she is clearly so well grounded. Like I feel like she's really got it together. And she's adventuresome and outgoing, and she's trying all these new things. I love that her father said, try a bunch of stuff before you're 30. I've given you guys similar advice. But I feel like, you know, she's really just open to everything and enjoying the process, right? So many people are so goal oriented, they forget that the journey is really what it's all about, right? That's the part you want to enjoy. It's the old stop and smell the roses or whatever. And if you're so goal focused, you miss out on the present on what's right there. And I feel like she's being authentic to herself and having a process where she literally just embraces where she is and is open to new things. And I just really love that.
Yeah.
I really love that.
Yeah. Deanna's really cool. You know, we're friends in real life. And I've always found that she is one of the most centered and grounded people. A lot of people in this industry, you know, we can get very frustrated, especially when things just aren't going our way, or when we thought that we did enough to book a role and then we don't get it, things like that. And it can be hard. And I've always found that she is just so grounded, so logical, and really doesn't let, even when things don't go her way, as they don't for everybody at some point, she never lets it tear her down.
Yeah.
And I think that that's very much to her credit.
She's clearly talented and has an incredible future. I mean, she's got 3 huge projects on her plate right now. Can we just geek out a minute about the fact that she actually has met Andre DeShields? Can we just geek
and
out
has
about
worked
that
with
one more
him
time?
on the marketing for the show. Yeah. And for those who don't know, Andre DeShields is probably on the Broadway Mount Rushmore.
Oh yeah.
He's one of
cool
the greatest.
Is off the charts.
So cool. I have a little story. I ran into Andre DeShields once, which I think is a rite of passage in New York. You just run into Andre DeShields at a random place. I ran into him at one of the Broadway clubs at Green Room 42, in the bathroom. And we were just washing our hands, and I looked over. I was like, "That's Andre DeShields." And I was like, "I don't know." And I turned, and he's wearing this like bright red suit and these like shiny shoes, and it's like he less so walks into a place and more so just like glides into a place. So I'm gonna wash my hands, and I turn to him and I go, I'm with someone else, and they say, "Oh, I love your outfit," and he goes, "Oh, well, thank you." And I went, and I was like, just want to say thank you for everything that you've done. You're so inspiring, and thank you for all of your work. And he looked at us and he said, "More to come, darling." And I was like, "Oh, you're so cool. You're so cool. You're so cool."
That's iconic. That is actually iconic.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's my fun little Andre DeShields story.
Love that story. Wow. Well, maybe one day.
Maybe one day. But today, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of So What's Your Process? We had a great time chatting with Deanna, and we're super excited to come back next week for another exciting guest. So in the meantime, make sure to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications wherever you are watching or listening to this podcast, so you never miss a new upload. And in the meantime, Allie,
we'll see you next time on So What's Your Process?
Bye-bye.